Stop moving for a moment. I mean it. Put the phone down if you need to. Sit still. Breathe. Because this is not the kind of word you scroll past while your spirit is bleeding and your mind is pretending everything is fine. This is not casual encouragement. This is not another little message to make you feel better for 5 minutes before you go back to carrying the same heaviness. No, God is interrupting something right now. And if this found you in your car, in your kitchen, on the edge of your bed, walking through the house with tears sitting behind your eyes, that was not an accident. Listen to me carefully. The timing was not random. The title was not random. That strange pull you felt when you saw this was not random. The heaviness in your spirit, the way something inside you said, I need to hear this, that was not your emotions playing tricks on you. That was heaven putting a hand on your shoulder and saying, stop. I need to talk to you before you go around this same mountain one more time. God is saying something to you today, and He is not whispering anymore. Because you are tired. You may not even have the words for it, but heaven does. You are tired of fighting the same battle in a different outfit, tired of getting free for a moment and then feeling that same fear come back through another door, tired of apologizing for the same weakness, crying over the same wound, reacting from the same pain, promising yourself this time will be different, and then watching the pattern circle back like it knows your address. And part of you has been wondering, God, why does this keep coming back? Why do I keep ending up here? Why does this thing still have a voice in my life? But I need you to hear me. What is about to hit your life is not destruction. It is not punishment. It is not another disappointment sent to prove that nothing ever changes for you. No, what is about to hit your life is the authority of God colliding with the cycle that has been exhausting you. That thing that kept repeating is about to meet a voice stronger than your trauma, stronger than your fear, stronger than your history, stronger than the lie that said, this is just who you are. And if you know this word is already finding the place in you that has been tired, like this video, as an act of agreement. Subscribe if you need faith-building words that keep calling you back to what God said. And before we go any deeper, go into the comments and write, the cycle breaks here. Don't wait until you feel brave. Write it while your hands are still trembling. Write it as a line in the sand. Because cycles do not end just because time passes. Years can pass and bondage can still keep perfect attendance. Cycles end when obedience gives God access to the place fear has been guarding. And that is where we are going now. And listen, the cycle has been speaking for a long time. It has been preaching to you through repeated events, repeated reactions, repeated relationships, repeated fear, repeated financial pressure, repeated rejection, repeated delay, repeated self-sabotage. It has been trying to convince you that repetition is identity. It has been trying to make you believe that because something keeps happening around you, it must be who you are. But heaven is speaking louder now. You thought the cycle was just the breakup. It was not just the breakup. It was the way rejection made you shrink afterward. You thought the cycle was just the money problem. It was not just the money problem. It was the panic, the impulsive decision, the shame, the secret fear that you would never have enough. You thought the cycle was just delay. It was not just delay. It was the discouragement that made you stop praying, stop applying, stop building. Stop believing that God could still open a door. You thought the cycle was just one person hurting you. No, it was the same spirit wearing a different face, showing up in another season, using another voice, trying to pull the same response out of you. And that is why you keep asking, why do I keep ending up here? Why does my progress feel like it restarts every time I get close? Why does this pain feel familiar, even when the situation is new? Because a cycle does not always announce itself as bondage. Sometimes it disguises itself as personality. This is just how I am. Sometimes it disguises itself as family history. This is how we handle things. Sometimes it disguises itself as survival instinct. I had to become this way to make it. Sometimes it disguises itself as bad luck. Things just never work out for me. But God is pulling the disguise off. He is exposing it as something He never intended to rule your life. Do not misunderstand the exposure. This is not God embarrassing you. This is not heaven putting your weakness on display so you can feel small. No, this is mercy turning on the light in a room where something has been feeding in the dark. This is God revealing what has been secretly limiting you, quietly draining you, silently training your decisions from behind the curtain. He is not showing it to shame you. He is showing it because He is ready to break it. Some of these patterns survive because you learned how to manage them. You learned how to function with fear. You learned how to smile with resentment. You learned how to worship with anxiety sitting in your chest. You learned how to call it wisdom when it was really avoidance. You learned how to call it discernment when it was really suspicion. You learned how to call it independence when it was really a wound saying, never trust anyone again. But chosen one, God does not merely comfort his children inside bondage. He interrupts the agreement that keeps bondage alive. He does not just pat you on the back while chains remain around your thinking. He confronts the place where you started cooperating with what he came to kill. And the cycle may have been speaking for years, but heaven is speaking louder now. The question is no longer, why does this keep happening? The question is, where is God asking me to obey so this thing can finally lose its authority? The cycle ends where obedience begins. Hear that again, because this is the governing revelation over everything God is exposing in you right now. The cycle does not end where you understand it. The cycle does not end where you cry about it. The cycle does not end where you post about it, analyze it, explain it, or promise that next time you will be different. No, the cycle ends where obedience begins. And I need to make this plain, because some of you hear the word obedience and immediately your shoulders tighten. You think God is putting religious pressure on you. You think this is about performing better, proving yourself, trying harder, becoming perfect enough for heaven to finally help you. That is not what this is. Obedience is not performance. Obedience is agreement. It is when your life says yes to what God has already instructed, even when fear is begging you to choose familiar control. Because fear has trained you, do not pretend it has not. Fear has trained you to stay quiet when God told you to tell the truth. Fear has trained you to cling when God told you to release. Fear has trained you to strive when God told you to rest. Fear has trained you to hoard when God told you to give. Fear has trained you to force the door when God told you to wait. Fear has trained you to go back because at least the old pain is predictable. But chosen one, predictable bondage is still bondage. And sometimes, the obedience that breaks a massive cycle looks small at first. It looks like making the call you have been avoiding. It looks like closing the door without needing one more conversation. It looks like telling the truth without editing it so people will still approve of you. It looks like forgiving someone without giving them access to wound you again. It looks like going to sleep instead of staying up all night trying to solve what God told you to surrender. It looks like giving when scarcity is screaming, keep everything for yourself. It looks like waiting when your flesh is saying, move now, force it now, make something happen now. Do not despise the small instruction. The enemy knows one yes can dismantle a structure he spent years building. One obedient step can interrupt a pattern that your family has called normal for generations. One door closed in obedience can stop 1,000 future tears. One truth spoken in obedience can end the private agreement you had with fear. One season of waiting in obedience can save you from marrying, partnering with, investing in, or building on something God never authorized. But listen to me, and I am going to be blunt, because mercy sometimes sounds like confrontation. You have been asking God to break the cycle while still protecting the habits that feed it. You have been asking God to deliver you while still defending the environment that keeps pulling you back. You have been asking God to heal you while still entertaining the voices that keep reopening the wound. You have been asking God to change the pattern while still making excuses for the people, places, addictions, compromises, and secret agreements that keep the pattern alive. God will not bless the cage just because it is familiar. He will not decorate your bondage and call it destiny. He will not make the prison more comfortable when he has already opened the door. No, he will call you out of it. He will say, get up, walk out, stop negotiating with what I told you to leave. Stop calling it complicated when I already made it clear. Stop asking me for freedom while your hands are still holding the key and refusing to turn it. And yes, obedience may feel like loss at first. Let that settle in you. Obedience may feel like you are losing something because disobedience has been comforting you in ways you did not want to admit. That anger gave you a false sense of power. That relationship gave you a false sense of belonging. That overworking gave you a false sense of worth. That control gave you a false sense of safety. That secrecy gave you a false sense of protection. So when God calls you out, the first feeling may not be joy. It may feel like withdrawal. It may feel like grief. It may feel like your hands are empty. But empty hands are not rejected hands. Empty hands are ready hands. God is not stripping you to leave you bare. He is freeing your grip so you can receive what obedience makes room for. You cannot carry the old chain and the new mantle at the same time. You cannot protect the cycle and inherit the promise at the same time. You cannot keep bowing to fear and then wonder why freedom keeps standing at a distance. So now the question becomes very simple. Not easy, but simple. What did God tell you to do? What instruction have you been delaying? What yes have you been postponing? What no have you been afraid to say? What door have you kept cracked open because part of you is still comforted by what is killing you? That is the place, that exact place. The cycle breaks there. And once obedience begins, do not be surprised by what God touches next, because the first thing He usually touches is the foundation the cycle has been standing on. And I need you to prepare your heart for this, because when God starts touching the foundation, things that looked stable may start trembling. Do not panic. Do not run back and start holding together what God has put His hand on. Certain relationships may begin to feel different. Certain routines may stop working. Certain opportunities may close without warning. Certain inner agreements you made with fear may start losing their grip. And the first thing your flesh will say is, something is wrong. But heaven is saying, something is finally being corrected. Listen to me carefully now. Every false foundation connected to fear is going to tremble. Every false foundation connected to people-pleasing is going to tremble. Every false foundation connected to scarcity, shame, rejection, hidden compromise, secret resentment, and old survival vows is going to tremble. Not because God hates you, not because He is punishing you, not because He got tired of your weakness and decided to embarrass you. No, when God decides to shake a life, He does not do it out of cruelty. He does it out of love. He is not taking what is holy from you. He is removing what cannot go where He is taking you. There is a difference. Some of what you are afraid to lose was never strong enough to carry your future. Some of what you have been protecting was only able to survive because the cycle needed it. Some relationships were not connected to your destiny. They were connected to your dysfunction. Some habits were not helping you stay safe. They were helping you stay stuck. Some doors were not opportunities. They were invitations back into the same old agreement with fear. And this is why the cycle kept repeating. The same foundation kept producing the same outcome. You kept trying to change the fruit while leaving the root untouched. You kept trying to change the season while standing on the same cracked ground. You kept asking for new results while building on old vows. I will never trust again. I will always have to do it myself. I must keep people happy or they will leave. I cannot rest or everything will fall apart. I have to hide this part of me or I will be rejected. Those vows were not wisdom. They were survival decisions made in pain. And chosen one, God is too faithful to build your next season on the concrete your trauma poured. He is too loving to put a mantle on a foundation that is already splitting underneath you. You cannot pour new concrete over old cracked concrete and expect the house to stand. You cannot build a healed life on inherited lies. You cannot build peace on people-pleasing. You cannot build provision on panic. You cannot build intimacy on suspicion. You cannot build calling on shame. The foundations are shaking because new foundations are being laid. That is not destruction. That is construction. That is not abandonment. That is architecture. I know it may feel like everything is falling apart. I know part of you is already bracing, already tightening your shoulders, already asking, God, why now? Why this? Why are you touching this too? But I need you to hear the difference between your fear and God's voice. Fear says, you are losing everything. God says, you are losing what was trained to defeat you. Fear says, you will not survive without this. God says, this is the very thing that kept you surviving instead of living. Fear says, hold it together. God says, let me expose what has been holding you hostage. Because what is falling apart is not your future. What is falling apart is the system that trained you to expect defeat. What is trembling is not the promise. What is trembling is the platform fear built underneath your decisions. What is being removed is not your identity. It is the false structure that kept telling you who you had to be in order to be safe. So do not misread the shaking. The shaking is not proof that God has abandoned you. The shaking is proof that He refuses to let weak foundations carry sacred assignments. And when that false foundation starts to move, something else starts to loosen too. The false name attached to it. The name the cycle gave you. The name shame called you. The name rejection stamped on you. The name pain taught you to answer to. Because once God breaks the ground beneath the lie, the label that grew out of it cannot stay attached much longer. And listen, cycles do not only repeat behavior, they rename the person living inside them. That is why this has felt so personal. That is why it has been hard to separate what happened to you from who you are. Because after something repeats long enough, it starts trying to baptize you in its own language. It stops saying, "You experienced rejection," and starts saying, "You are the rejected one." It stops saying, "You walked through lack," and starts saying, "You are the broke one." It stops saying, "You were wounded," and starts saying, "You are the angry one." It stops saying, "Someone left," and starts saying, "You are the abandoned one." But heaven is interrupting that language today. Some of you have been answering to names God never called you. The almost one, almost chosen, almost loved, almost stable, almost healed, almost there. The hard to love one, the too much one, the not enough one, the one who always starts over, the one who gets close and loses it, the one who ruins good things, the one who cannot keep peace, the one who will always struggle. And you may not say these names out loud, but you have been living like they are written across your chest. And I need you to hear me clearly. Those names did not come from heaven. Some of them came from a parent who spoke out of their own brokenness. Some came from a partner who knew exactly where to cut you. Some came from a leader who mishandled your tenderness. Some came from enemies who studied your weakness and used it as a weapon. Some came from failure. Some came from trauma. Some came from that private moment of shame nobody else knows about. The moment where you looked at yourself and said, "Maybe this really is who I am." No, that was pain talking. That was fear writing. That was the cycle trying to make itself permanent by becoming your name. You have been wearing a label so long that it started feeling like skin, but it was never skin. It was a sticker. Hear me, it was a sticker. It stuck because the wound was fresh. It stuck because nobody helped you peel it off. It stuck because every repeated disappointment pressed it down harder. It stuck because every time the cycle came around again, it said, "See? This proves it. This is you." But what people called you was never the same as what God named you. What happened to you was never authorized to define you. What failed around you was never given permission to write your identity. And yes, peeling hurts. Do not let anybody make you feel strange, because this part is tender. When God starts removing a name you wore for years, it can feel like losing yourself before you realize you are finally being found. It can feel raw. It can feel unfamiliar. You may not know how to move without apologizing for your existence. You may not know how to receive love without preparing for abandonment. You may not know how to walk into provision without expecting the floor to drop. You may not know how to speak with authority because shame trained you to whisper. But God is not merely changing your circumstances. He is restoring your name. He is reaching past the cycle, past the wound, past the voices, past the failure, past the years you spent trying to survive. And He is touching the name heaven placed over you before any of this ever touched you. Before rejection called you unwanted, God called you chosen. Before lack called you doomed, God called you provided for. Before abandonment called you disposable, God called you beloved. Before shame called you dirty, God called you clean. Before the cycle called you stuck, God called you free. And this matters, because you cannot consistently walk in a new direction while still answering to an old name. You cannot obey like a son while thinking like an orphan. You cannot build like someone entrusted by God while still calling yourself the one who always fails. You cannot receive healthy love while still answering to the hard-to-love one. You cannot walk into freedom while still turning your head every time bondage calls your old name. So God is breaking more than the pattern. He is breaking the identity that formed around the pattern. He is not just saying, "Stop going there." He is saying, "Stop calling yourself that." He is not just saying, "Leave the cycle." He is saying, "Leave the name the cycle gave you," because when your name changes, your direction changes. When your identity is restored, your obedience stops feeling like pretending and starts becoming alignment. And this is why God often changes a person's name after a wrestling season, not before it. Because there are some names you cannot receive casually. There are some names you only understand after you have wrestled through the night. after you have limped away from what used to rule you, after you have discovered that the fight did not destroy you, it revealed you. Look at Jacob, one night in the wilderness, alone, separated from everything familiar, carrying years of fear, manipulation, striving, family conflict, and unfinished history. He found himself wrestling until daybreak. And I need you to understand this. That wrestling match was not punishment. It was not heaven saying, "Jacob, you are disqualified." It was God meeting him at the exact place where the old name had run out of authority. Because Jacob's name carried history. It carried striving. It carried grabbing. It carried the story of a man who had learned how to survive by maneuvering, managing, calculating, and trying to secure blessing with his own hands. But that night, God did not just touch Jacob's situation. God touched Jacob. He touched the man beneath the pattern. He touched the identity beneath the behavior. And when the sun came up, Jacob did not walk away the same man who entered the fight. He walked away marked. He walked away changed. He walked away limping, and some people would have looked at the limp and called it damage, but heaven called it evidence. The limp did not mean Jacob lost. The limp meant Jacob had encountered God too deeply to return unchanged. The limp meant the old way of walking could not survive the new name. He went into that night as Jacob, but he came out as Israel. He went in carrying the story people knew, but he came out carrying the name heaven spoke. So, do not despise the place where you are wrestling. Do not despise the pressure that is making the old version of you uncomfortable. Do not call yourself defeated just because you are walking differently now. Some of what changed in you is not weakness. It is witness. It is the mark of an encounter. It is proof that God put his hand on the part of you that used to run, scheme, hide, grab, panic, and control. You may have a limp, but you also have a name. And look at Joseph, betrayed by his own brothers, sold by people who should have protected him, lied on by someone he did not touch, forgotten in a prison after helping someone else get free. If Joseph had judged his life by the middle of the story, he could have called himself rejected, delayed, abandoned, buried, and overlooked. But what looked like delay was positioning. What looked like rejection was preparation. What looked like a prison was a training room for the responsibility that was coming. Because Joseph's process was not only about Joseph, hear me, it was bigger than his feelings, bigger than his comfort, bigger than his private dream. God was preparing him for a famine he had not yet seen, and for people who would one day need the wisdom pressure produced in him. His family would need him. A nation would need him. Generations would be affected by what God formed in the dark. And chosen one, this is why your cycle breaking cannot be reduced to personal relief. Yes, God cares that you are tired. Yes, God cares that you have cried. Yes, God cares that you need peace in your own soul. But this is bigger than you feeling better for a moment. There are family lines connected to your obedience. There are future assignments connected to your healing. There are people who will one day survive because you did not stay bound. There are sons and daughters, natural or spiritual, who will need your testimony to prove that the pattern can stop. There are people watching your life who do not need a perfect story. They need a delivered one. And this is why Jesus said you cannot put new wine into old wineskins. Because new wine expands. New wine moves. New wine requires capacity. God will not pour a new season into an old vessel that still agrees with the cycle. He will not put the weight of what is next into a mindset that still calls bondage normal. He will not pour fresh oil into a heart that is still protecting the lie that almost destroyed it. So the pressure you feel right now is not proving that you are unworthy. It is expanding capacity. The stretching is not rejection. The stretching is preparation. The waiting is not wasted. The wrestling is not pointless. The mark is not shame. God is making room in you for what He already wrote over you. But if God is changing the vessel, you have to stop trying to rescue what He is letting fall. You cannot keep catching the old wineskin while asking Him for new wine. You cannot keep defending the old structure while asking Him for a new name. If He is loosening it, let it loosen. If He is exposing it, stop covering it. If He is removing it, do not run behind Him, trying to put it back together, because the next step is surrender. And surrender begins when you stop catching what God is letting fall. And listen to me carefully now. You have exhausted yourself catching things God never asked you to carry. You have been running back and forth in your own soul, trying to keep every plate in the air, trying to keep every person calm, every expectation satisfied, every old version of you defended, every fragile system from collapsing. And heaven is asking you a question today. Who told you it was your assignment to preserve what God is removing? Some of you are tired because you keep catching one-sided relationships every time they start to fall. You keep reaching for people who only reach back when they need something from you. You keep catching old coping habits because they make the pain quiet for a moment, even though they leave you emptier afterward. You keep catching false peace, swallowing truth, smiling when something in you is bleeding, calling it maturity when it is really fear of conflict. You keep catching family expectations that were never assigned by God, carrying images, roles, burdens, and loyalties that are crushing the person He is trying to restore. You keep catching fear-based decisions. You keep catching secret bitterness. You keep catching the need to prove you are not broken. You keep explaining, overperforming, overgiving, overthinking, trying to convince people that the wound did not affect you, trying to look healed while your hands are still shaking from holding everything together. Chosen one, that is not strength. That is survival wearing church clothes. And God did not bring you to this moment so you could keep calling exhaustion faithfulness. Let it fall. I know that sounds frightening because you have measured safety by how much you can control. But let the false agreement fall. Let the counterfeit comfort fall. Let the shame story fall. Let the cycle's evidence fall. Let the lie that says, "This always happens to me," fall. Let the old apology for existing fall. Let the fear of being misunderstood fall. Let the performance fall. Let the version of you that had to beg for crumbs fall. Let the need to keep proving you are worthy of love fall. And do not confuse surrender with doing nothing. Surrender is not passivity. Surrender is not sitting back while life happens to you. Surrender is refusing to keep empowering what God has already judged as finished. Surrender is when you stop feeding the thing God exposed. Surrender is when you stop giving CPR to a cycle heaven has already pronounced dead. Surrender is when your hands finally open and say, "Lord, I will not keep rescuing what you are removing." Because some things are only still alive in your life because you keep reviving them with your attention. You keep replaying the conversation. You keep checking the door. You keep rehearsing the offense. You keep building a defense for people God never asked you to convince. You keep returning to the same familiar pain because at least you know how that pain works. But the familiar is not always safe. Sometimes the familiar is just bondage with your fingerprints on it. And I know the fear. I know what your heart whispers. If I let this fall, what will I have left? If I stop holding this together, who will I be? If I release this, what if nothing replaces it? But hear me clearly. God never asks for surrender to create emptiness. He asks for surrender to create room. Empty hands are not abandoned hands. Empty hands are available hands. Empty space is not wasted space. Empty space is prepared space. God is not trying to strip you down to nothing. He is trying to make room for what could not enter while your arms were full of yesterday. This is where obedience replaces control. You do not need the full map to take the next right step. You do not need to know every detail of the next season to obey the instruction in front of you. If He said release, release. If He said apologize, apologize. If He said rest, rest. If He said walk away, walk away. If He said stop answering that voice, stop answering it. If He said tell the truth, tell the truth. The cycle wants you to demand certainty before obedience, but faith says, God, I trust your voice more than I trust my fear. So stop catching what God is letting fall. Stop rescuing the structure that kept you small. Stop negotiating with the pattern that kept stealing your peace. Stop calling it love when it is bondage. Stop calling it loyalty when it is fear. Stop calling it wisdom when it is avoidance. Let it fall and let your obedience rise in its place. Because when surrender and obedience meet, something shifts in the spirit. What comes next will not be random. It will not be chaos without meaning. It will not be life spinning out of control. What is about to hit your life is mercy with authority. Targeted mercy, holy mercy. Mercy that knows exactly where the cycle has been hiding and has come to confront it by name. And I need you to feel the weight of that, because mercy does not always arrive softly. Sometimes mercy hits. Sometimes mercy interrupts. Sometimes mercy steps into the middle of what has been repeating and says, "Enough." You were expecting comfort, but God is sending authority. You were expecting another small encouragement to help you survive the cycle one more time, but heaven is not coming to help you manage bondage. Heaven is coming to break it. What is about to hit your life is clarity hitting confusion, discipline hitting delay, favor hitting stagnation, truth hitting deception, peace hitting torment, strength hitting the place where you kept collapsing, light hitting the corner where the cycle kept hiding. And when it hits, do not call it chaos just because it disrupts what you were used to. Do not call it loss just because it removes what kept dragging you backward. Do not call it pressure just because it demands a response. This is not random movement. This is mercy with authority. And listen, it may come through a conversation you did not plan to have. It may come through a door closing so firmly that you finally stop standing in front of it begging. It may come through a sudden conviction in your spirit where you know, "I cannot keep doing this." It may come through an unexpected opportunity that proves God was not finished with you. It may come through a divine separation that feels painful at first, but peaceful afterward. It may come through a new strength you cannot explain, where the same temptation shows up, the same memory shows up, the same voice shows up, and something in you does not bow like it used to. That is mercy. Not the mercy that pets the cycle and leaves it comfortable. The mercy that confronts it. The mercy that walks into the room with keys in its hand. The mercy that does not ask fear for permission. The mercy that does not negotiate with generational patterns, secret agreements, familiar sins, emotional prisons, or old identities. When God speaks over a pattern, the pattern has to answer. When God commands a thing to loose you, it cannot pretend it did not hear him. When heaven puts authority on your freedom, bondage loses the right to keep calling you by your old name. But hear me clearly. The old cycle may try one final performance. Do not be surprised if the old temptation tries to look attractive again. Do not be surprised if the old loneliness starts talking loud at night. Do not be surprised if the old anger rises up and says, "Protect yourself the way you used to." Do not be surprised if the old fear whispers, "Nothing has changed. This is just another emotional moment. You will be back here again." That voice is not prophecy. That voice is panic wearing confidence. The cycle may say, "You always come back." It may say, "You know you cannot live without this." It may say, "You have tried before." It may say, "This is who you are," but do not answer it. Do not sit down at the table with what God has already sentenced. Do not negotiate with the thing heaven has exposed. Do not hold a debate with a prison door after God has opened it. When the old cycle starts talking, your job is not to prove yourself to it. Your job is to obey God immediately. Immediate obedience, not emotional debate, not 3 more confirmations because fear wants a committee, not rehearsing every possible outcome until you talk yourself back into captivity. If God says move, move. If God says confess, confess. If God says block the access, block it. If God says stop feeding that thought, stop feeding it. If God says tell the truth, do not decorate the lie. If God says step into the light, do not retreat into private fear and call it wisdom. Because some victories are strengthened when they are named. Some chains lose power when they are dragged into the light. Some cycles keep surviving because nobody ever calls them what they are. They hide behind personality. They hide behind family patterns. They hide behind "this is just how I cope." They hide behind silence. But what God is breaking in you cannot keep hiding in the dark while you pretend it is not there. So before this moment passes, understand what heaven is doing. Mercy has arrived, but it did not come empty-handed. It came with authority. It came to confront the repetition. It came to interrupt the agreement. It came to silence the old accusation. It came to put a demand on your obedience. And the next step is not to hide this in your heart like another private feeling. The next step is to name the cycle before God, bring it into the light, and let the darkness lose its hiding place. So name it now. Do not let this moment stay general. Do not let your spirit feel the conviction and then hide behind vague language. What is the cycle God is breaking in you? Is it fear? Is it rejection? Is it poverty thinking? Is it delay that keeps making you start and stop, almost there and then pulled back again? Is it addiction? Is it anger? Is it isolation? Is it failed relationships repeating the same wound with a different face? Is it overthinking until obedience becomes impossible? Is it spiritual heaviness that comes over you every time you try to rise? Is it a family pattern that has been moving through bloodlines like it owns the house? Name it. And listen to me. Naming it is not glorifying it. Naming it is not giving it honor. Naming it is refusing to let it operate anonymously. Darkness loves vague language. Bondage loves secrecy. Cycles love being called stress, personality, bad luck, just how I am, just how my family is. But when you bring it before God and say, Lord, this is the thing, something begins to lose ground. The hiding place starts collapsing. The agreement starts breaking. The cycle can no longer keep wearing a mask while stealing years from your life. So go to the comments and write the declaration that matches what heaven is doing in you. Write, the cycle breaks here. Write, my obedience begins now. Write, God is breaking this pattern in my life. Do not write it like a performance. Write it like a witness. Write it like somebody who has finally stopped protecting the thing that was destroying them. Write it like your future is listening, because it is. And if you need prayer, leave the request. If you need agreement for deliverance, say it. If you need clarity, healing, restoration, courage to obey, strength to walk away, strength to tell the truth, strength to come into the light, say it. Do not suffer silently while heaven is calling you into community. There are chosen ones here who know what it feels like to fight in the dark, and your honesty may become the doorway where agreement begins. And before you leave, read at least one other comment. Respond with faith. Respond with compassion. Tell somebody you are not alone. Tell somebody God is with you. Tell somebody the pattern can stop. Because many people are not just watching a video. They are sitting on the edge of a decision, wondering if anybody understands the battle they have been surviving. And share this with someone who keeps surviving the same battle but needs to hear this clearly. The cycle is not their identity. The final word over you is not repetition. The final word over you is release. And now I declare over you, this time you will not go around the same mountain. You will not keep circling the same pain and calling it wisdom. You will not keep choosing the same wound because it feels familiar. You will not keep walking back into bondage because freedom feels unfamiliar. No, the old cycle has lost its authority. The old voice has lost its throne. The old pattern has lost its permission to keep directing your steps. I speak freedom over your identity. You are not the name the cycle gave you. You are not the failure. You are not the delay. You are not the rejected one, the abandoned one, the too much one, the not enough one, the always starting over one. You are chosen. You are called. You are corrected because you are loved. You are being rebuilt by the hand of God. And what God rebuilds will not be owned by what once broke it. I speak freedom over your relationships. May every false attachment lose its grip. May every connection built on fear, manipulation, guilt, or old pain be exposed for what it is. May God give you discernment to recognize old cycles in new clothing, old spirits with new faces, old traps with better language. You will not call control love anymore. You will not call chaos passion anymore. You will not call abandonment normal anymore. You will not beg for crumbs where God has already told you to leave the table. I speak freedom over your finances, over your family line, over the patterns that taught you to expect lack, panic, debt, instability, and survival. May inherited fear break. May poverty thinking break. May the private agreement that says, this is just how it is for people like me, break in the name of Jesus. May God replace fear with wisdom, impulse with discipline, confusion with strategy, and shame with holy confidence. You will not keep repeating what your bloodline survived when God is calling you to become the interruption. I speak freedom over your emotional reactions. May anger no longer drive the car. May fear no longer write the script. May anxiety no longer be the prophet you obey. May rejection no longer make decisions for you. May God give you the strength to pause, to breathe, to listen, to obey, to respond from healing instead of reacting from history. The place where you used to collapse is becoming the place where you stand. And I pray now, Father, in the name of Jesus, touch the one listening right now. Go into the hidden place. Go into the memory. Go into the agreement they made when they were hurt, when they were afraid, when they said, I will never trust again. I will always protect myself. I will just survive. I will never be free. Break the agreement made in fear. Break the vow made in pain. Break the pattern that kept repeating behind closed doors. Let mercy with authority enter that room now. Give them courage to obey quickly, not after 10 more confirmations, not after fear is comfortable, not after the cycle gives permission. Give them immediate obedience. Give them clean discernment. Give them strength to release what you are removing. Give them peace that does not need control. Give them wisdom that does not hide behind delay. Give them discipline that can build a new future. Give them holy confidence to walk like someone heaven has already named. And Lord, when the old cycle calls, let them hear your voice louder. When the old temptation returns, let obedience rise faster. When the old heaviness tries to settle on them, let praise break through. When the old mountain appears in front of them, remind them, you are not going around this again. This time, they obey. This time, they release. This time, they tell the truth. This time, they walk forward. I declare it over you now. The cycle breaks where obedience begins, and obedience begins now. If you are receiving this word, like this video as an act of agreement. Subscribe for continued messages of faith, healing, and deliverance. Share this with someone who needs courage to break a pattern. And go down to the comments now. Write your declaration. Leave your prayer request. Say it with faith. The cycle breaks here, and my obedience begins now.